Alright, so in this lecture, I'm going to do a demo showing you how I would go about sketching a landscape from life. Okay? Now your assignment is going to be to do the same thing. You can either use a photo if you aren't able to sketch from life, but if you are able to sketch from life, like if you have an iPad, I recommend going out and actually trying to sketch from life. So this is the photo we're going to use. I'll blow it up really quick so you can see it in better detail, but I just have it pushed over into the corner so that we can see our canvas better. Okay, so this is what we're going to be drawing, right? And remember, if you're drawing from life, to first start with framing your object, right? So we know what exactly we're drawing. Obviously, if we have a photograph, it's already been framed. There's no peripherals we have to worry about. It's already framed, but if you're drawing from life, you're going to need to make sure you have framed or decided what is going to be inside your drawing, okay? Also, make sure you set a time limit for yourself. So we're going to set a 30-minute time limit and try and do less than that. If we do less, that's fine, but we don't want to go over, okay? So first thing I do to start out is to kind of roughly divide everything into thirds. So since we're working digitally, we can actually literally divide it into thirds. So I'm going to do that. We have our image here, and we'll do this. So if we were to divide this into thirds, looks like the thirds point would be probably about there and there. It's pretty close to thirds. Okay. And then the thirds going this way is going to be about here and about here, roughly, give or take. Okay. So now I can just actually duplicate this layer and flip it that way, and then just move it into place. Close enough, okay? And then I'm just gonna merge it down to the picture layer, and then I can connect these lines across. Gotta lower the opacity though so it doesn't get super distracting. Doesn't look like I got it quite perfectly lined up, but it'll be close enough for this. So up the opacity on that one so we can see it. We're just going to go where it looks even. Do the same thing on this one. Let's just make it even. Okay. And about there for that one. And about there for that one. So that's roughly divided into thirds, and this will give us a somewhat of a good idea of where things need to be placed on this image. And you can do this kind of mentally, divide an image up into thirds if you're drawing from life as well. So we're going to start with the outline of the silhouette, basically the outline of the mountain. So we're going to start up here. Whoa, way too big. Okay, we're going to start up here with this mountain, and we know that it's kind of halfway through that top third quadrant. Okay, and it comes down about to here. Now normally if you're doing something with a really clear horizon line, I always try and establish that first so that you know where on the page that horizon line is going to be. Okay, so then we have these mountains up here. They come down to form this mountain peak, okay? And then that's going to come to about the middle of that middle square, roughly. Let's hit this sort of tree line here. Going to come and dip down below that line, slowly start working its way up over here until it hits that green patch, and then it kind of slopes up a little steeper all of a sudden. And we have this mountain range, comes up to right about there, and then here, and then it shoots up and attaches to the roof or the top of our page right there. Let's make sure we're on the right layer, yeah, okay. You should also, when you're drawing from life, you should be spending the majority of your time, the majority of the place your eye should be looking should be at your reference photo or from life. If you're spending more time looking at your drawing than you are looking at the actual reference, you're doing it wrong, right? You want to spend the majority of it looking at your image that you're trying to draw, right? So that you can get the all the different shapes and everything down correctly. Okay. Alright, so we have these really rough shapes blocked out. Okay. And it's really rough when I say rough. Okay. let's get this grass line in here. Okay, we got this shadow, and then this shadow that's gonna come up till it comes all the way up to here, and then works through over to there. Let's block in real loosely some of these houses. And we got some trees here, which we can worry about in a minute. This looks like I brought it a little too high, so I'm gonna bring it down a little bit more. And then over here, we're gonna have roof of a house. Perfect. And then we'll have those trees that are gonna be over there. There's some houses over here. And then we'll have the church steeple. That's gonna be, actually the church steeple's way over here. Okay. And then we almost forgot we need this mountain range all the way. That's gonna be right back in here. Okay, so we have that really roughly, really loosely blocked out where all kind of the major shapes and forms are going to go. Right, so now I'm going to lower the opacity on this one so it's pretty low, make a new layer, and this layer I'm going to start getting a little bit more refined with my details. I'm also going to move my reference photo down here because I'm going to start at the top, and I want to start trying to match that outline pretty well. Okay, so starting up here at the top, and I'm going to try and keep it pretty thin and pretty light because this is going to be farther back in the background and we don't want it to be really the focal point. You can see how it kind of fades away there because of the atmospheric perspective, and we really want to sort of try to emulate that. That's what I'm going to do here. Get some of those tree masses, as well as we're going to try to get these other shapes that are actually in the mountain itself. So we have that. We have this line that comes up. This one comes up to here and then drops down to give us this sort of a shape. And then over here, have this sort of triangle shape, or more like a diamond, I guess. We have, then this shape comes down. Make sure you're watching your timer. Right now we're at the 10-minute mark, so we're doing good, but you want to make sure you're pacing yourself so you don't get, you don't run out of time or spend too much time on one spot. Okay, so that's pretty good there, and then let's get this dark area. Okay, so right now it doesn't look like much because we haven't really gone in and added any sort of like the values. We're just kind of blocking out the shapes, but for now that's where we're going to leave it at. That's okay. Okay, so let's come up here to this other mountain peak that's up here. I want to keep this really thin if I can. These little snowy peaks we have going on up here. Okay, and then just grab those edges a little bit, just barely. We got the snow here. It really takes a turn there as it turns away from the light. And then most of this we're just going to have drop into shadow. So we have that. Let's move our reference photo over. Oh, we were drawing on the wrong freaking layer. Should have checked. It's alright, we're just going to do this. We'll make a duplicate. Turn off one layer and erase the reference photo on this layer. And then turn off that layer and turn this layer on and erase the drawing on this layer. And that will give us the two separate layers we want. There we go. Okay, so now we can turn that on and off by itself, and this as well. Perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on the top, delete that layer since there's nothing on it. Make sure we're on the right layer now. Now we can move reference photo. I'm going to move it up to this side. I'm actually going to move it on top so we can see where we're working. So we're back on this layer. Here we are. Let's work on these mountains up here, the very farthest back layer of mountains. Make sure we're on the right layer this time. Okay, we are. Good. So farthest back layer of mountains. Alright, and that's going to be all we do for that. Now we're up to this cliff. This one's a little bit more in the foreground. Okay, and it also has all these trees on top, so I'm going to try and break it up a little bit more on this one. And then we have the cliff top. A little bit of vegetation on it. It's kind of working its way down the side of the cliff. So that's good there for now. Let's move on to this next part. It's going to be a similar thing. We got the little plants up there, and this is going to come down until it meets that tree line. And this is going to be a bunch of greenery that's working its way up into the side of the mountain. And then it looks like we have a little waterfall here with all these sort of rock shapes going on. So I'm trying to pick it up a little bit faster so we can get done in time for our time limit. Because once you're done, you're done. Even if you're not finished, that's as far as you got on the picture, and next time you just have to be a little bit faster, but you set that time limit so you don't spend so much time just sitting there noodling the same thing over and over again, right? You know when you're done because you're done when the time runs out. Okay? So, got that mountain in there. All right. Let's move our reference photo up here so that we can start doing down in the tree line. So start over here with this tree. Okay. And I'm going to start slowly blocking in values here. Okay. We can move a little bit faster. So blocking the values of this tree line here. And then this is going to be all dark all over here because this is all getting put in shadow. So this is shadow. This is all going to be shadow. So have that in here. We have these plants that come out over here. And then this, we have this tree here and this big bush as well. Okay, and then these guys on this side all get pushed back into shadow, doing some hatching here. You can tell I'm not drawing every individual branch, right? I'm just treating this like it's its own large separate form. So all this stuff, we're going to blow up our brush really quick so we could fill this all in with shadow. Then we have, let's jump over here. So this is all just going to be green grass, so we don't have to worry about that. But we will grab this house really quick. There are some hints of shingles there on the roof that we're just going to barely sort of hint at. I'm not going to get super detailed there. And then the house, which does have some windows and stuff here on the back, but it's not a big deal because most of that is going to be obscured in shadow. Okay, we got that there. Got the house. Got this shadow of the tree that's coming off over here. Okay. We have that tree. Let's start adding in some of these other buildings that we see here. I'm not matching this exactly how I see it. I'm just trying to block in the major visual landmarks. All right, let's get these houses in real quick. Keeping it pretty simple. All right, perfect. And then you can just barely see the top of the tree line over here on the other side as it kind of fades away with all these little tiny buildings over here. Okay, so let's move real quick here. Putting yourself on a time limit also, it kind of blows you away how fast it can make you work and how much you can get done in a short amount of time. Sometimes we kind of tend to take a while to really go slow and kind of look at things, and sometimes that's good, but other times we just need to start getting stuff out there. Okay, so we have that. We have these trees here, and those trees are filling up this space right here. We might have to simplify as well. If I'm on this time limit here, I'm probably not going to be able to get every single little detail that I see, so I'm going to end up simplifying a little bit. Okay, maybe cutting out some buildings and stuff. Have these trees here. Okay, let's get this building in. Okay. Alright, so we're going along, we're getting pretty close. Just got to finish up this tree line and some of these bigger trees that we see here. That's looking good. We got the steeple that is going to be coming up right here, and then it dips down behind that tree, and then the rest of this just keeps crawling up the mountain, our vegetation here, and then we have the rest of our trees and a few buildings. We're just going to sketch them real fast, and they're going to be mostly obscured behind all these trees here. So we're racing along here, moving pretty quick. Trees in here that are filling up this space, right? And then this hill here with the trees behind it. Okay, all these trees creeping up the side of the mountain. Perfect. All right, so let's we got most of that done down there. Let's block in some of the shadows so we can at least have a better light source, or at least a better idea of where the light source is coming from. Okay. Let's see, these trees here, we'll darken up a little bit. Throw some shadows down and back in these trees here. And then these trees will have some deep shadows inside of them. And we have the grassy fields that kind of just do their thing over here. Just draw some contour lines to help us understand the direction of the plane. Okay, so let's hurry up and tighten up the mountains really quick. In our last few minutes, we have about 5 minutes left. These down here at the bottom, well, let's draw in some of these cliff lines. That's, I think, what will really help a lot is this idea that there's sort of like these cliff shapes coming down, where some areas have sort of like trees on them, while other areas are a little bit more bald. Now, this piece by itself is probably not going to be something I present to anybody, right? It's not going to be a masterpiece or anything like that. However, by doing this, I've learned a lot of information about, how these mountains are working and how these valleys look and stuff like that. And those are things that I can add to other drawings that are going to help me understand them better when I'm drawing stuff out of my head, right? It'll feel more real because I've actually had to draw and look at pictures of mountains and valleys and buildings, right? So even if this piece, once it's finished, isn't necessarily presentable worthy, it did serve its purpose, which was to help me understand and to do kind of like a study of this landscape, this mountainscape, right? So it still did its job, and that's the point of these, right? Don't be upset if in the time limit you didn't get it completely perfect or finished, right? Because you can see I've been drawing for a really long time, and I've done this a lot, and I still didn't quite get it finished. This isn't something I would call perfect. I wouldn't want to show it off to anybody, but that's okay. It served its purpose. I learned what I wanted to learn by drawing this, and that was really the whole point. Don't shy away from it. I think we're about out of time. We'll just do a few last minute touches here, and then these little plants here growing down we'll get as well. Gonna scribble in all these little all the foliage here, darken everything up. Alright, so let's turn our reference photo off and look at it. Now, is it perfect? Absolutely not. Not even close. But it's good enough, right? We got done at just about 30 minutes, alright? And if you're watching it, it might look faster because some parts might have been sped up when I was not talking, but it took me 30 minutes to do, okay? Now, a cool exercise you can do is if you do it 30 minutes and you feel like, man, I just didn't really nail it or I had a really hard time, do the exact same picture again, exact same thing, set another timer for another 30 minutes and start all the way over from the beginning, and you'll be blown away by how much faster you can go the second time and how much more detail you can capture. So it really just takes practice. Don't get discouraged. As you can see, I mean, landscapes aren't my strong point, but if I put more practice into them, I could probably get a lot better at them. So just keep practicing, and I'll see you guys in the next lecture.